York's classic rock, Q1043.
Good morning to Sheila Weller. This is actually the third time Sheila has joined us on Sunstein Sunday. She has written 7 books. 3 of them are New York Times bestsellers, and she has been on our show before for 2 of those bestsellers. And one of them was the Carrie Fisher, A Life on the Edge, and also a book that it's actually one of my favorite books of all time, Girls Like Us, which is the stories of Carole King, Joni Mitchell, and Carly Simon. And the reason Sheila is joining us now, because she was on years ago with Girls Like Us. It's because we are celebrating the 50-year anniversary this week of Joni recording Blue, the release of Carole King's Tapestry, and the release of Carly Simon's debut album. So welcome back, Sheila.
Thank you. That is a significant 50 years ago, 50-year anniversary. So I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, how did you come up with the idea of focusing, instead of writing 3 different books, because with these 3 women's lives, you could have easily written 3 different books. Why did you combine them?
Well, I wanted to write the history of the women of the 60s generation, so to speak, older boomers. And every time I thought of that, and I wanted to for a long time, every time I thought of that, I thought of the 3 women who narrated that journey: Carole, Joni, and Carly. Very different backgrounds. Carole from Brooklyn, Joni from Canada, Carly from kind of elite intellectual New York. So very different backgrounds, very different women, but they lived the lives and wrote about the issues and the as Christine Stansfield, the noted feminist historian, very sweetly said about my book, the mammoth enterprise of creating a new womanhood. I know that sounds kind of high-minded, but there were little girls in the 50s when How Much Was This Dog? Is This Doggy in the Window by Patti Page was the #1 hit song. There was nowhere to go but up in terms of looking for adventure and looking for self-expression and living your life freely, making mistakes if that happened, and getting over them and learning from them, and not just getting married to the first boy that proposed to you in college, which had been kind of the norm at the time. So the journey that they went on, they narrated it for us. We all kind of went on that, and everything from Carole's being a teenage mother to Joni's having to give a baby up for adoption because it was, as she put it, in Canada, to have a baby out of wedlock was like you killed someone, to Carly's writing a song about a woman choosing not to get married because she didn't want to be tied down. All of those things were, and so many things in between and after, were kind of the journey of the women of their peers.
Why do you think the music of these 3 women has held up so well? 50 years. I mean, 50 years.
Right.
And they still resonate. These songs still resonate.
They do. And I posted something on Facebook the other day about this, or yesterday, and people were saying, "Oh, Carole's Tapestry. I listened to it forever." They tell truth. It's the first time that women were singer-songwriters, were songwriters at the same level as men, and higher and bolder, and were telling a story that men didn't tell and didn't even understand. I mean, when Joni wrote that beautiful song, gorgeous plaintive song, Little Green, about her baby that she gave up for adoption, Little Green, be a gypsy dancer, the very esteemed Rolling Stone critic said it surpasses all understanding. I had no idea what the song is about. When Carole moved to Idaho and had 2 husbands so incredibly different than her background in Brooklyn, she made such a leap in identity and in adventure and in path breaking in terms of becoming a different person. Rolling Stone just let it go. They didn't even know that she was there, barely knew that she was there, much less the very interesting life that she led there. men didn't understand this. They were writing songs for, well, they were writing songs for all of us, and they were for all of us, men, women, younger and older. But they're beautiful songs. They're wonderful songs, and they're universal.
Did you have their authorization and their
No.
cooperate? No,
Well, I kind of did.
kind of. Explain.
Carly came to me. I went to her a number. I got the kind of the authorization from their publicists or their managers. Let's put it this way: I didn't get an actual no. Well, not right away, but Carly came to me and said, "I think that's a great idea," and that was very helpful to my ego and my writer's, energy. But the interesting thing is when you have had a relationship of any sort with somebody this, not just iconic, that's kind of a overused word, but somebody this talented, fun, important to the society, important to your life. And music is a magical world. When you've had a relationship with somebody like that, you remember it. So even if it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when I looked for those people, and this was before it was really that easy to Google musical people on the internet, oddly enough. Now it's much easier, but then it wasn't that easy. I remember looking for Chuck Mitchell. It was hard at the beginning. But when you've had a relationship of any sort with somebody like this, you remember it so clearly. It was such a happy point of your life. It was such a creative point in your life. It was such a kind of sexy, magical point in your life that you do want to share it. So I was lucky in that regard. People did want to talk.
So you met all three?
No. I met Carly. But I'm just saying the people that were very, I have a ton of sources. The people that were very close to them at these various times did want to talk. When I reached them, they said, sure, which is a very happy thing to happen.
Did you hear from any of the three after Girls Like Us was published?
Carly came to the book party. Carly's just great. She said early on when we started having our email conversation, she said, I expect to have my feelings hurt. Who says that? Who says that? Much less a superstar, right? So she very much, being the daughter of a publishing executive, understood what writing was about, truth telling was about. She's very head forward and honest. And so she came to my book party. She gave interviews in which she said some of the things hurt her, but we kept in touch afterward. I wrote about her memoir. I interviewed her and her daughter. Carole, I think, is very private. And she wrote her own memoir. I knew she was doing that. And Joni, people always said, oh, I'm going to bring Joni the book. And she was kind of excited when it first came out because I had spoken to her second husband. But she's been kind of quiet about it. When Taylor Swift wanted to play her in what was then going to be the movie, Joni kind of put up her resistance to that. And she feels she's very unique, and actually she is. I think they're all unique. I think they're all braided together. Their stories tell a larger story.
I am speaking with Sheila Weller, and she is the author of 7 books, 3 of them New York Times bestsellers, including Carrie Fisher, A Life on the Edge. And Sheila was a guest on my show discussing Carrie, the book about Carrie Fisher. But we are talking today about Girls Like Us, the stories about Carole King, Joni Mitchell, and Carly Simon, because Carly Simon's debut album was released 50 years ago this week. Carole King's Tapestry was released 50 years ago this week, and Joni Mitchell was working on Blue 50 years ago this week. And the music is every bit as important now as it was then. Now, what do you hear? It was so devastating to hear that Joni suffered a stroke.
Yes.
And then we heard that she had some recovery. Do you have any kind of update?
I heard that she was doing much better. Can I also say why the 50 years ago was significant? Do you mind if I go into that a little bit?
Go ahead. It's your book.
Tapestry was the biggest album of 1971, won all the Grammys, and was the biggest album of the decade. Showed that a woman could do that. Before that, rock was a male-dominated field.
Still is.
Yes, but she kind of broke through the glass ceiling.
Right.
She kind of redefined the idea of what beautiful was in a woman. She was natural looking, didn't get her nose done, didn't get her hair straightened. She was the Earth Mother, and women that didn't look like the perfect, girl, perfect faced girl with the mini skirt and the go-go boots, took great comfort in that, and great affirmation in that. Joni was the artiste. Joni's Blue was the high point of critically acclaimed confessional music. Chris Christopherson told me I thought it was Shakespearean. Danny Korchmar, who's a close friend of James Taylor, said, I said, Joni, leave something of yourself in there. You're putting it all out. The guys in Laurel Canyon are weeping. Joni was very different than Carole. Carole was kind of more accessible, brought people together. She was a tunesmith. Joni was a poet. And as her friend Estrella Barosini, one of the women ladies of the Canyon, said, she always needed her life to be harder. Blue was written when she was so vulnerable, she said, I could see the bones under my skin. It's a masterpiece of honesty, of plaintiveness, of wit, of mystery. And she taught us a lot about living alone and with dignity, in a piquant kind of elegant way. And it was an extraordinary album. So the two albums were polar extremes of what a young woman searching for her own adventure could be. I could go on about Carole, but we don't have much time. Carly wrote that great song, That's the Way I Always Heard It Should Be, about a woman resisting marriage because she didn't want to be put on a shelf. She didn't want to be tied down, which was always a man's prerogative before. And she was very sexy. She was gorgeous. Everybody wanted to be her or date her. The long legs, the fabulous face, and the very sexy, iconic boyfriends, one after another. And as it sometimes happens in history, women from elite backgrounds are able to give you other women the permission to be sexy. That does happen. And she kind of did that. So those are the significant things that happened 50 years ago. Amazingly, yeah.
You're so vain. Theories? Was it Warren Beatty?
Warren Beatty kind of claims it. It was Warren Beatty and a few other people, including one of her early boyfriends, and I forget who else. Somebody ran it down for me, and it was a compilation of people. And I figured that out in the book, but I didn't quite figure out who it was. But it is a compilation, and she loves to give away at auctions the sources. She does do that, or she used to do that.
So what's happening with the idea of the movie Girls Like Us? It would make a fantastic
I
movie.
know. Something is, I can't really go into it. There might be some effort now, kind of confidentiality clause, but people have been interested in it for a long time. And I think it would be too. And it's had a life up and down the way these music books have.
If you could pick who would star, who would you pick? I mean, Taylor Swift was a natural for Joni.
Taylor Swift at that time was a natural. She had that polite, good girl quality that Joni did have before. She absolutely had it. Before she broke out, there was that good Canadian, girl that Taylor was way back then. So that was a perfect pairing. I don't know now. I mean, time passes. I mean,
Mandy Moore for Carly Simon.
Who?
Mandy Moore, Carly Simon, and she sings.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what's going to happen, if it's going to be a movie or not, but I hope, people reread the book. And I'm happy when I hear that people have reread the book again and again. That's like a happy thing.
Such a good book. We have about a minute left. Anything we haven't covered that you want to let the audience know about?
No, just that, the life lessons in their lives were magnificent, and they dared to be confessors of heart and soul, and to be adventurers. And when I post about them on Facebook, or somebody else does, everybody says they were extraordinary, and they really, their music changed my life and kind of heightened my sense of who I was and who I wanted to be. So I'm so happy that continues on.
And I thank you, Sheila Weller. She is a 7-time book author, 3-time New York Times best-selling author, and Girls Like Us. If you have not checked this out, this is the time to read this book about these incredible women, Carole King, Carly Simon, and Joni Mitchell. We're celebrating the 50-year anniversary of their music. If you missed any part of this, you can download the iHeartRadio app. It is free, and my podcast lives on forever, Sunstein Sessions, and you can check out the video interview of this on our website, q1043.com. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. No, it's the President's Day holiday. I'll see you Tuesday, 2 for Tuesday, on the Jim Kerr Rock and Roll Morning Show, Q104.3. Before you go, Sheila, I want to get a picture, and then I have 2 things to ask you about, if you don't mind, if you have a minute. Okay. So let us know when you're ready for a picture.
Picture?
Yeah.
Yep, I'm ready.
Where it's
smile.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Great. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Okay, Sheila, I'm working on another project, and you might have a...
New York's classic rock, Q1043.